So I had this idea. It was one of those late-night ideas that feels brilliant until you actually try it. Could you build something real, something useful, using only tools from the dollar store? It's a question that combines my two favorite things, engineering challenges and saving a buck. So I grabbed my wallet and headed to the land of amazing bargains. The mission was simple. Assemble a complete woodworking toolkit for under $20. I walked down the aisles, past the cheap candy and festive decorations, and found the tools section. It was something. I felt like an archaeologist discovering a lost civilization of questionable manufacturing. First up, I found a tape measure. It felt like it was made of recycled soda cans. When I pulled the tape out, it struggled to retract. It was like a tiny, sad robot that had given up on life. Next, I grabbed a precision square. The plastic was so thin you could practically see through it, and I had a sneaking suspicion it wasn't exactly 90 degrees. Then came the star of the show, the hand saw. It looked more like a prop from a middle school play than a serious cutting tool. The handle was hollow plastic, and the blade was comically flexible. I also picked up a screwdriver set with interchangeable bits, a tiny hammer that felt lighter than my phone, and a pack of assorted screws that looked suspiciously soft. As I stood in the checkout line with my basket of bright plastic and shiny mystery metal tools, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and genuine dread. The total came to $18.50. For that price, you could barely buy a single decent wrench at a hardware store. So what was the project? I decided on a classic, a small, 3-shelf bookshelf. It's simple enough in theory, but it requires straight cuts, right angles, and solid assembly. It's the perfect test to push these tools to their absolute limit. I have some serious doubts. That saw looks like it would struggle to cut through a loaf of bread. The screwdriver bits might just turn to dust. So, here's the challenge for you. Take a good look at this pathetic toolkit. Which of these tools do you think will actually survive? Will the tape measure even make it through the first measurement? Will the hammerhead fly off on the first swing? My money is on the screwdriver bit stripping immediately, and the saw blade bending into a modern art sculpture. But maybe, just maybe, one of these ultra-cheap tools will surprise us all and prove to be a hidden gem. Place your bets in the comments. This is either going to be a massive failure or the most satisfying budget build of all time. Let's find out. With my lumber laid out, it was time for the first phase, measuring and cutting. This is where precision is everything. A project is only as good as its foundation, and that foundation is built on accurate marks and straight lines. I grabbed the dollar store tape measure. The good news? It did, in fact, measure things. The bad news? The locking mechanism was basically just a suggestion. It would randomly slip, causing the tape to snap back into the housing with a sad little thwack. I had to measure each piece 3 times just to be sure, holding the tape down with one hand while desperately trying to make a mark with the other. It was not off to a great start. Next came the plastic square. I used it to draw my cut lines, hoping for a perfect 90-degree angle. I held it against the wood and immediately noticed the problem. The plastic was so flimsy that the pressure from my pencil was enough to make it bend. My straight line had a subtle, wobbly curve to it. This is a huge problem in woodworking. If your angles are off, nothing fits together correctly. It's like building a house with a crooked foundation. To get around this, I had to be incredibly gentle, barely touching the wood with my pencil. It felt less like construction and more like performing delicate surgery. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the handsaw. Oh, the handsaw. I lined it up with my wobbly but hopefully close enough line and started to cut. The first thing I noticed was the noise. It wasn't the satisfying zzz of a sharp saw. It was a high-pitched scraping squeal, like a cat being dragged across a chalkboard. The blade, made of some kind of mystery metal, was incredibly dull. Instead of cutting the wood fibers, it was just tearing and shredding them. It took an enormous amount of effort to make any progress. My arm was burning after just a few inches. The blade also had a tendency to bend and wander off course. I was trying to cut a straight line, but the saw had other ideas. It veered left, then right, creating a jagged, wavy edge that looked like it had been chewed by a beaver. To counteract this, I had to slow down to a snail's pace and guide the blade with my thumb, which is not exactly the safest technique. After what felt like an eternity, I finally finished one cut. It was rough, uneven, and definitely not square. Looking at the 6 pieces I needed to cut, I knew this was going to be a long, long day. The dollar store was testing not just its tools, but my patience. After the epic saga of cutting wood with what felt like a butter knife, it was time for assembly. This is where the project should start coming together and looking like an actual bookshelf. My plan was to use the dollar store screwdriver and the included pack of screws to join the pieces. I lined up the first 2 boards, ready to drill a pilot hole. Oh wait, I didn't have a drill. The dollar store didn't sell one. This was my first major roadblock. Without a pilot hole, driving a screw into solid pine is nearly impossible. The wood will likely split, and the screw will require a heroic amount of force. This is where you have to get creative. My workaround was primitive, but it was all I had. I took the largest screw from the pack and the tiny, toy-like hammer. I gently tapped the point of the screw into the wood to create a small starting divot. Then, I put the screwdriver on the screw and started turning with all my might. The handle of the screwdriver was smooth, hard plastic, offering 0 grip. My hand kept slipping, and the bit would pop out of the screw head. The screws themselves were made of a metal so soft you could probably dent it with a fingernail. The Phillips head pattern started to strip and deform almost immediately. After about 5 minutes of sweating and grunting, the first screw was only halfway in. The head was so stripped it was now just a sad silver circle. The screwdriver bit was also showing signs of wear, its sharp edges rounding off into uselessness. This wasn't working. I was expending a massive amount of energy for almost no reward. So it was time for Plan C. I grabbed the hammer again. Instead of trying to force the screws, I decided to use the smallest nails I could find in the assorted pack. At least with a hammer and nail, the physics are on your side. Or so I thought. The hammer was so light it had almost no driving power. I had to swing it with incredible speed to get any force, which, of course, completely destroyed my accuracy. I bent the first 3 nails into U-shapes. They were as soft as the screws. On the 4th try, I managed to get a nail to go in. It wasn't straight, and I had hammered a lovely crescent-shaped dent into the wood next to it, but it was holding. Assembling the entire bookshelf this way was going to be an exercise in frustration. Every single connection was a battle, and the final structure felt wobbly and insecure. The cheap fasteners were failing me at every turn. After a long struggle filled with bent nails, stripped screws, and a lot of quiet frustration, the bookshelf was finished. I stood back to admire my creation. It leaned slightly to the left. The shelves weren't perfectly parallel, and the surface was covered in hammer dents and scratch marks. It looked less like something you'd buy, and more like something a bear might have built during a frustrating afternoon. It could technically hold a few paperback books, but I wouldn't trust it with a heavy textbook. The journey was complete, but the result was a testament to the tools that built it. It was, in every sense of the word, a dollar store bookshelf. Let's do a rapid-fire review of the tools. The tape measure, barely passable. It gets a D- for its faulty lock, but it did technically measure things. The plastic square, utter garbage. An F. It's not square, which is its only job. The handsaw, an F-. It was an instrument of torture that shredded wood instead of cutting it. The screwdriver and screws, also a solid F. The soft metal made them useless for any real task. The only tool that kind of worked was the hammer. It was too light, but it could eventually drive in the equally terrible nails. It gets a C, making it the valedictorian of this sad, sad class. The total cost for the tools was $18.50. The wood cost about $15, so for around $33, I have a bookshelf. Sounds like a bargain, right? Wrong. This project took me over 4 hours, when it should have taken about 45 minutes with proper tools. My hands are sore, my patience is gone, and the final product is barely functional. The value of these tools is a complete illusion. You don't save money, You just convert that money you saved into time, stress, and a final product that you're not proud of. The cheap tool is often the most expensive one you can buy because you'll just have to buy the real thing later anyway. So, what's the big lesson here? While the spirit of DIY is about making things yourself, it's also about using the right tool for the job. Investing in a few quality, basic tools is a much smarter move than filling a toolbox with cheap junk that will only let you down. Would you ever try a challenge like this? Let me know your own budget tool horror stories in the comments. I think for my next video I might need to do something a little more explosive just to recover from this. Maybe testing dollar store safety glasses. What could go wrong?